What were the books that got me into reading? Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now for today's video, I'm going to be talking about some of the old books that I read a long time ago that got me into the romance genre specifically. I feel like everybody has an origin story when it comes to romance. My origin story is that I didn't really get into reading until later half of elementary school thanks to my cousin, and she introduced me to middle school reads, and then we moved on to YA reads, and then at that time my reading level was just kind of like YA level, but then my cousin, who was a couple years older than me, introduced me into the world of romance genre because she was kind of moving herself, right? She was not no longer in the YA section anymore. She was moving on to the romance section in the library, and I followed her along, and she gave me some recommendations. And at first I was like, you know what, I don't think I can get into it. I think the writing's a little bit too hard for me to understand. Keep in mind, I was like in middle school, earlier on in like my high school days, so like around grade 9. And she was like, no, but like you should try it, see if you can understand it, because these stories are just so amazing, so good. And then once she saw that I had an appetite for romance novels, specifically contemporary, she introduced me into the world of historical romance. And then that was when all hell broke loose. And that's really when I fell in love with reading, right? I found all the genres of romance that I still read today. So I always have to thank my cousin for introducing me to those subgenres of romance that I still love today. But for this video, we're only going to be focusing on contemporary romances, and we're going to be focusing on books that I have read many, many years ago, probably like a decade ago now. And I'm going to talk through them. Hopefully you guys see some familiar names maybe, and then you guys can add some to your TBR too if you guys haven't seen them yet. Keep in mind, these books and their opinions that I've had are from a decade ago, so maybe if I reread it now, I might not like it as much, but who knows? Let's get started. So the first book that I want to talk about is obviously one of my favorite romance reads, but in general, I just want to talk about the author herself. So the author that kind of really kickstart me into going into romantic comedy and into contemporary romance is really Sophie Kinsella. My cousin introduced me to her one day, and she said, you have to read Sophie Kinsella. She's so funny. It's so flirty. It's so romantic. It's so cute. And I was looking at her like she was crazy because, I was in grade 9, grade 10, and my reading level wasn't that high yet, or at least it didn't feel like it was. And I didn't feel like I was comfortable reading Sophie Kinsella. But then I picked up, I think, like a Confessions of a Shopaholic series, the first book, and I read it, and I thought it was just so hilarious. Sophie Kinsella was definitely one of those authors that opened me up to the doors of romantic comedy, because I never thought and I never realized that books could be funny. Like, I love Sophie Kinsella's humor. I feel like she's somewhat on the borderline for many people. It's either you really like her sense of humor or you don't, because you think that her characters are a little bit exaggerated, a little bit annoying, and they don't really learn from their mistakes, and sometimes they're really heavily flawed. But at the same time, you can also lean towards her as being your comfort reader because it's very familiar writing. Her writing style doesn't really change between books, and her characters are somewhat similar too as well. So you're kind of entering into a comfort zone where you know that her stories will always play out with the underdog always winning the competition. So the first book that I basically read from her was obviously Confessions of a Shopaholic series. If you guys don't know what that series is about, it's basically about our female heroine named Becky. She really loves to shop, and she doesn't know how to financially plan for her future. She ends up raking in a lot of debt on her credit card bill, and she needs to pay it off. So she needs to find a better job, and she gets tied into this whole shenanigan business where she meets our love interest, who is the opposite of her, someone who really knows and understands investing, knows how to save money, knows how to plan for himself, and knows how to climb the corporate ladder so that he can further himself in salary expectations and things like that. This unlikely pairing, they fall in love, and you can see their romance and their relationship progress through books. And I always love that series, but I feel like we also need to highlight her standalone novels too as well. Can You Keep a Secret is a book that I've been talking about a lot on my channel simply because it is one of my favorite books. It's very short down summary because I'm sure everybody has heard about it before on my channel. It's about our heroine who feels that she is very inferior to her family and her boyfriend, and she's one day on a business trip and she's flying back home, but on the plane, there's some turbulence. She gets scared, so she tells all her secrets to the passenger that is sitting beside her, and that passenger just so happens to be her boss that she didn't know was coming to visit the UK office, and they spark up this friendship where he helps and supports her along the way, and it's their kind of romance story where she learns how to let go of things in the past that has stopped her from being happy. I really like that book. It was really funny, it was really cute, and it definitely holds a special place in my heart. But other books by Sophie Kinsella that I also really like that also sparked my joy for reading romance include The Undomestic Goddess. This involves our female heroine who is very different from our other Sophie Kinsella characters. I feel like Sophie Kinsella always loves to write an underdog heroine who works kind of like a dead-end job and finds herself and goes to different revelations and, you know, changes her careers a bit. The Undomestic Goddess follows our heroine who is actually very driven. She loves her job as a lawyer. She has just finished many cases and she closed the biggest case and she thought she's done with it until she sees a file on her desk and she realizes that she might have missed something very important in the case that might cause the firm to lose its reputation, that might throw the case off, and that she might lose in the end. And she is so distraught by this because she thought that she got everything down to a T. She's normally not like this. She normally crosses everything off on her checklist. So what's happening? Why does she miss something? So she blames herself a lot. So she goes on a train. She doesn't even know where this train takes her, but she goes into the small village and she finds the first house she sees, and they open the doors and they think that she is the maid that they hired. So she plays along and she pretends that she is a maid when in reality she doesn't know anything about housekeeping. And it's there where we meet a whole cast of characters and also her getting to know the groundskeeper in that village. So really romantic love story involving our heroine who is very career driven, learning to find herself again and learning to let go of things that causes her a lot of stress, such as her job. Another book that I really liked and I still remember to this day is Remember Me from Sophie Kinsella. This one involves an amnesia trope. So our heroine once again is an underdog heroine. She works a dead-end job. She seems sort of happy with where she is, but then she's also very upset of where she is. You know, she's not getting the promotion she wanted. She's not getting the raise she wanted. She is drunk. She is with her friends. They all hate their jobs. They just all just tag along with all this like depressive episodes of how they need to get out of this rut. And the next thing you know, she wakes up, she's in a hospital, she's totally different, she looks different, her hair's cut differently, her body is skinnier, you know, her face looks different, everything about her is different, including all the clothes that she's wearing too, because suddenly she's wearing designer clothes. And it turns out that she woke up from an accident and she has forgotten like a couple years of her life and how she came from, you know, someone who looked like they were being underpaid to someone who was looking like they got paid. And she's trying to piece together everything because she starts realizing that her old friend group hates her now. She starts realizing that her job has changed. She got promoted. She got the raise that she wanted. And she realizes that she's dating someone that she doesn't even know who this person is. And it's like the last person that she would think she would date. But then suddenly they've been together for a very long time. You know, they've been sharing the same flat, and you know, she's just confused in general. There's a whole cast of characters that also come back into her life that she has to piece together. I just remember this book to be extremely funny. It was really heartwarming, and it was definitely a comfort read in the end because it was a feel-good romance, right? We realized that our heroine has done a lot of things in the past that she might not be proud of, and she's learning to accept her mistakes and to apologize. So another author that kind of introduced me into romantic comedies and contemporary romance include Julie James. Now, Julie James is an author of romantic suspense and also legal romances. I would say that her romantic suspense novels are definitely more on the lighthearted side. They're not like, you know, guns flying everywhere and things like that. It's definitely more focused on lawyers and FBI agents and them kind of working together to solve cases, but then obviously a lot of hot tension, suspenseful scenes interplay with each other too as well. So Julie James also has like a set series or standalone novels that involves just lawyers in the law office just hating each other because they need to fight for the coveted spot of partnership. They do all these like pranks and things like that that causes them to look silly in front of their partners and things like that. So one of the books I just described is Practice Makes Perfect, where our hero and heroine are fighting for that coveted spot of partnership, and it's an unspoken rule that if you don't get promoted within this year to become a partner, then you must quietly exit the firm. Like, you just decide to quit, and because you want to save your pride, you want to save your ego, and you want to save your things. And I just read this book last year again as a reread, and I completely still adore it. I love it so much. It's so funny, it's so hot, it's so intense. It's like an office enemies to lovers romance. It's everything that I always wanted in an office enemies to lover romance, and it's just perfect. And I can't wait for you guys to read it if you guys haven't read her yet, although I suspect you do because, you know, she's really popular. There's another one called Just the Sexiest Man Alive, and I love this one too as well. It's about our heroine who is a lawyer. She's really good at what she does, but she just finds it so ridiculous that she is being forced by her firm to train like a Hollywood actor who is our hero so that he can prepare for his role in his next big legal thriller. So it's that opposites attract romance. It's that, you know, mix of legal thriller plus a little bit of Hollywood spice in it to keep it interesting. There's a whole bunch of other Julie James books that I read that I really enjoyed that I haven't even marked on Goodreads because that's how long ago I read it, but it was just so amazing. It's the FBI US Attorney series, and I honestly don't know if I want to read them because I feel like Julie took a step back from writing romance, and I feel like if I read all her backlisted books, then I won't have anything left to read. But at the same time, there are guaranteed like 4 out of 5 stars or 5 out of 5 stars. So maybe this year will be the year that I go back and read her books. So another book that really got me into that cozy romantic suspense mood was definitely this one that I have talked about before in some of my videos. This one's called Talk Me Down by Victoria Dahl, and this one is just a small town cozy romantic suspense novel that I feel like you guys can just sit down and read in one sitting. This involves our heroine who is actually an erotic romance author. She goes into this small town and she is trying to leave her stalkish creepy ex, and she just wants to focus on her work. She wants to write her book and things like that, but then she goes back to that small town that she once grew up in, so then that means that she knows everybody there. And unfortunately, one of the persons that she knows is really just her former high school crush, which is our hero. Our hero has now rising in the ranks, and he is becoming the chief of police in that small town. So when there is mysterious things happening in her small little cottage that she's staying in, she turns to him for help, and they both have to piece together the mystery to figure out who is actually behind the crime and if it is the creepy ex that we all suspect. And it was just fabulous. It was hot, sensual. I just love romance with, you know, authority. So I really like this one too as well. And then I think everybody had that phase of 50 Shades of Grey. I personally did. I don't know if I want to bring it up, the fact that I enjoyed the 50 Shades of Grey series back when I was like a child. And it still holds a special place in my heart because it was the time where I was introduced to billionaire romances. And I can't say that, you know, 50 Shades of Grey didn't play a major role in my romance reading life experience so far. I was just always in the mood for a darker billionaire romance after reading that trilogy, and I turned towards stuff that was kind of like mimicking 50 Shades of Grey in terms of tone. And one of the ones that I really enjoyed that I feel like did a lot better than the series was this one called Anything He Wants by Sarah Fawkes. This one is actually like a novella series that has been combined together to be this one giant book, and it's about our heroine who of course is poor, and she is working a temp job. You know, she's trying to make ends meet, she's down on her luck and things like that. But then one evening she gets seduced by a mysterious stranger in an elevator, and she is so attracted to him, she's so interested in him, she wants to know exactly what's going on in his mind, and he is the same likewise because he feels all these emotions towards her. But to her shock and surprise, that mysterious person just so happens to be the CEO of the company that she is working for. And then this book includes a lot of like really cute, intimate moments where they're getting to know each other and they fall in love. But then obviously there is that element of romantic suspense too as well, because somebody is out there trying to harm him and her, and it's about them racing against the clock trying to figure out who this person is before they actually do get hurt. So Sarah Fawkes definitely writes like really addicting romance, and I really like reading books where our characters are really down in their luck. Like I'm talking about being destitute. Like I just love romances like that because everybody needs a hero in their lives. We're all strong, independent people. We all try to better ourselves. We all try to not rely on others, but in romance novels, it's really nice to just give in and to give into that fantasy of someone kind of just coming your way, respectfully helping you financially. And one of the books that I really enjoyed was this one, also from Sarah Fawkes, called Breathe Into Me. This one involves our heroine who needs to take care of her brother, and they both live in a trailer park situation. She is, I think, a bartender, and she works really hard for her money, and she meets this new mysterious stranger in town. It's a small town. Everybody knows each other, but this person just came in, and they are instantly attracted to each other. He's in town to house sit for a mansion, and they just get to know each other, and then obviously a lot of emotional things take place. I found this book to be really addicting because it was just really easy to get into. Her writing is just fabulous. It's very charming, and I loved it. Like I loved him getting to know her family despite her family being broken. Another book that I really liked was this one from Elaine Fawkes. In fact, after reading this one, I was just on the hunt for all Elaine Fawkes novels. I found a lot on eBay, and I have since not read any of it. I read one. I gave it a 2 stars. So it doesn't really represent Elaine Fawkes in general, but I really like this one from Elaine Fawkes. It's called Hot Stuff. It involves our heroine who is working in this corporate job. She's doing really well for herself. She has a very strong-willed personality. She does not believe in love, and she is just very adamant about dating and her principles towards dating, and she is the Grinch in the storyline. Our hero, on the other hand, is a coffee shop owner. He owns like this cart that makes coffee in front of the building that she works at. And in the beginning, there's like prejudice that she has against him because she thinks that she is better than him. She thinks that he makes less money than her. Therefore, he needs to respect her and her title. And she is infuriating a lot of the times. She's very stubborn. She's definitely privileged, and there's just many aspects that go against her that you don't like her. But this book had that character development where she's kind of learning more about herself, where she's learning about her flaws. She's learning to work on herself to kind of understand the way that he thinks, because they always have these coffee conversations every single morning. She's buying a cup of coffee from him, and they always like spark up a conversation. He's very much like the sunshine trope character. He's a golden retriever. He believes in love, and he tries to convince her all the time that she could fall in love and they could be together forever and be happily ever together. And this one definitely had a more angsty feel towards the end. It was that plot climax where we really have to decide like what our values are in a relationship, and if you can believe in yourself that you're capable of love. I feel like a lot of these books I'm talking about include a lot of romantic suspense elements to it, but definitely I really like this one called Satisfaction by Marianne Stillings. I probably included this in many videos too as well because I remember talking about it, but just in case if you haven't watched my videos yet, this one involves our hero who is the stoic, rule-following, private eye detective. He's buff, he's good looking, and he makes himself known when he goes into a room. He's hired to be the new bodyguard for our female heroine who is a TV chef. Think Food Network Television, Rachel Ray. She's a host of the show. She's making delicious food, but somebody on set is out to get her because she starts realizing that a lot of things are going wrong. She, lights are falling, fires are turned on, and like things are missing in her room, and she's just overall nervous. So the studio hired him to take care of her, but obviously there's that kind of forbidden romance that you do get with a bodyguard and the protectees, like the person that he's trying to protect. He can't normally have a relationship with them because it's a conflict of interest, and things when too emotional can get bad. So it's about this relationship, and I really liked it too as well because I love opposites attract, right? And I love, just stand up men who want to save our heroines. Just loved it. And it was so fun. I had to read a lot of Marianne Stillings novels afterwards. She hasn't written a lot of books, which disappoints me a lot. I feel like a lot of the authors that I've read in the past when I was growing up that I really enjoyed that made me fall in love with romance has stopped writing since, or has only written a couple of books and then just gave up. And I could totally understand that because the world of publishing is definitely really hard to make money. So I think that is it for all the authors that have made me fall in love with romance in general. If you guys like this video, let me know if I should do one for historical romance. If you guys are curious to see what my childhood favorite historical romances were that made me fall in love with historical romance. I feel like I did a video like that already where I reread my childhood favorites, but if you guys want more of an extensive video, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys again next time in a new one. Bye.